Hello, hello, good evening. Welcome to Power Parenting Session. Power stands for Parents Overcoming with Wisdom, Education, and Resources. My name is April Starks, and I am the lead training partner here at Olive Tree Resources. And our goal is to just embrace, empower, and elevate families, and that includes parents. And so every year, every month, the first Tuesday of the month, we have had our power parenting sessions. We've been on summer break, just letting the parents just relax with their families and enjoy. But now we're back. Now that school has started back, I think it's time for us as parents to get together and just discuss some subjects that are really important to us. And one of those topics is legacy. Legacy is so important, and I'm sure it tugs on all of our hearts when we think about what do we want to leave for our children, what do we want to pass on to the next generation. And so we're happy today to have with us our very special guest, Shanika Smith, and she is the author of Breakthrough of a Legacy, Single Parenting God's Way. And we're so grateful to have her today so that she can share just some insights into the book. The book is available on Amazon. I'm going to just keep this strolling for us so that you can check it out or visit the website leapsandbreakthroughs.com. You'll be blessed by the book. It is a fruitful book. Just reading off some of the chapters that will really bless you. Chapter 1, how did I get here? That's a question probably every parent has asked. How did I get here? Life situations cause us to definitely ask ourselves that, even if we haven't said it out loud. It has been something that has played within our head to think through. God's promise of legacy, chapter 3. God promised legacy for us and for us to pass that on to our children. For those who are co-parenting, chapter 6 will really hit home for you. Co-parenting, letting God sort it out. Wow. Something to think about. That chapter will really hit home. This one is really dear to me. The chapter that talks about is chapter 10. It says, breakthrough and sing into your child's heart. See into your child's heart. That tugs on my heart, just even that title of that chapter, because that's important. And we'll dive into that a little bit, but I'll go ahead and let you kind of share. Shanika, you can go ahead and help us by sharing a little bit about yourself and even the book, if you want to dive into maybe what inspired you to write the book.
Okay, thank you for having me, April. I feel like this is a really important message to get out there. I guess I didn't always feel that way. When I became a single parent, it was it was new to me, and it was I was just trying to find my way through it. But what inspired me to write the book is just really because I always like to read, and I it was kind of like something that was put in me like years ago. And somebody asked me a question like, have you ever thought about writing a book? And so I was like, wow, like, that really was in the back of my mind, but it was something that I was too afraid to do. But when they asked me that question, I started to think about it more, and I was thinking, what would I write a book about? And then it was like, the Lord just told me, write about the season that you're in. And it was like he kept everything so fresh in my mind that I was able to just pour it out. But my journey started about 10 years ago. I went through a divorce and, found myself in a situation of being a single mom with two young boys. And at the same time, I joined a church and was starting my relationship with God. And it was like he was just, teaching me things about motherhood and making me pay attention to what my focus should be. And he was showing me, it's your sons. Like, you need to redirect your life, and you need to make them your focus. You need to make them the most important thing in your life. And that was like a pivotal moment. It changed everything for me. It changed my focus. It changed my whole lifestyle. And as I began to walk with the Lord, and he was just, teaching me how to mother them, in a way that was pleasing to him, teaching me how to raise them up in him. And there was just so many points in the journey, this like almost 10-year journey, things he brought me through, things he had to show me to do for my children, just to turn their lives around. And so when the idea came to write a book, I knew exactly what to write it about. And it was like he kept everything so fresh in my mind, like every lesson he taught me, he kept all those things fresh so I could just pour them out into this book. And that's really how it came about, just the
Mm-hmm.
stories of my journey.
Yeah, and that's powerful. I like how you um, even touched on the fact that as you were growing, you were allowing God to help guide you through the
Hmm.
process. Because actually, one of my favorite parts of the book is so much in there. So I'm encouraging people to get it. But just even the quotes from other moms, and I believe one person, I think it was Miss Clay, that stated, you really have to ask God for guidance and strength along the way.
Hmm.
So I thought it was good how you collaborated. You also got input from other moms, other people, because all of our stories matter. All of
Hmm.
our backgrounds are different, and there's no cookie cutter process to this parenting journey.
Hmm.
So we just take different things from people that really can help us along the way
Hmm.
in parenting our children, but most importantly, asking God for that guidance, because I
Hmm.
can relate to that. Even when I had my children, I wasn't a single mom, but it was difficult for me because I felt like I had a plan. I felt like I had already built what I felt like was going to be my legacy uh, in a certain
Hmm.
way and manner.
Hmm.
And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't plan for it to be this way. And I can honestly say, at first, for me, I was a pretty selfish mom because I was angry for a little bit. Probably the first 2 years, I was angry because I felt like this wasn't not how it's supposed to be. I had it planned this way,
Hmm.
and I just had an attitude all the time.
Yeah. Yes. I exactly. It is like you are you have to tell yourself to sacrifice, because that's not our natural response to parenting sometimes, because you don't understand what how much of yourself you have to give in motherhood. And that is like it's shocking to realize it. But yeah, you have all those feelings. You have anger, you want a moment for yourself, and you feel like you've given all of yourself. You don't have anything left sometimes. And
Yeah.
God was just like showing me, like, no, the way you have been living is selfish. You've been putting your all your feelings first. Even going through a divorce with small children, I made that decision based on what I felt like needed to happen, and I didn't consider how it would affect them. And so all these things the Lord just brought to my attention, like, no, you need to think about how this is hurting them. You need to think about what they're feeling, and you need to put that first. Like, you need to put yourself in the background for a minute and focus on these two boys. And
Mm,
that's what he told me, and it was just so eye-opening, and I felt really selfish, but that was the turning point. And from that point on, he just guided me every step of the way. Like, he told me what to say to them. He told me the things that we should do and shouldn't do. And he just guided us along the way.
hmm. Yeah. I think that's a really good point because all of our children are different too. You could probably tell us the differences between your children. I can share the same, and so that does lend for us um, the desire to really take the time to say, what does each child need,
Like
and
making that
then to
sacrifice to give everything to motherhood.
yeah. I'm sorry. I think we kind of froze up just a little bit. I was talking. Sorry. Sorry.
I heard
Um,
you. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Yeah, I think it kind of froze just a little bit. So
Hmm.
I just started talking just so that it wouldn't kind of lapse in time. So um, I'm sorry if I over kind of talked to you or for the people that are watching. We're talking at the same time.
No, I heard you were saying that all our children are different.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so that's why I think it's important to like really seek God and ask, God, how can I, you know, deal with this child in a manner that they can relate to or that they will be impacted, because
Mm-hmm.
it's different from how you deal with another child.
Mm-hmm.
My youngest son, he's real mild tempered, so you can just tell him sternly with the mama look, we're not doing that, and he gets it. Like, he could probably break down crying and he'll respond. My other
Mm-hmm.
son, mm-mm, you got to come a little more sterner with some
Mm-hmm.
consequences and
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah.
They are all different. You do have to have a different approach for each child. And I have something in the book about that, like learning your child's love language. Like they talk about
Mm-hmm.
love languages for adults, for for married couples, but the same thing is true for children. They each have a style that they respond to. That they need for like affirmation, a way that makes them feel understood, that makes them feel loved. A communication style, like you said, you might have to speak more firmly to one child, but another child is more sensitive, and they don't need that as strongly because it hurts them quicker, you know. Or one child may need more attention because that's their love language, and another child may need compliments or words of affirmation because that's their love language. But yeah, each child is different. Each child has different needs that you do have to tune into.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. So when
Hmm.
we talk about legacy, because we want to hopefully um, engage that topic for those who will be tuning in or watch this later, and hopefully they'll comment as well with us. But what would you say legacy means to you? How would you define that? And then how do you feel like you're building that from even the breakthroughs that you've had in your family?
Um, well, now I have a spiritual understanding of legacy, whereas before, growing up, that was not really talked about in our family, like legacy or leaving something, for your children or next generation or whatever. That was never discussed. And I know a lot of families, like, they inherit something, and inheritance is left for them. But when I came to know the Lord, I understood more of what His definition of legacy is in a spiritual way. What He wants us to have, and that's everlasting life with Him. And that is the best legacy that you could leave your children. Like, I could leave them material things, I could leave them money, but if their soul is not saved, what good will that do them? And so I that became the most important thing to me. Like, what he was showing me is teach your children about me, which, it was like he had a way of showing me the scripture in Genesis 18 where God is talking to Abraham and he's telling him, teach your children about me and I will bless you. And that scripture impacted me. And I was like, wow, Lord, like, that is really what you want for all of us as parents. And so when I saw that, that helped me understand what he meant by legacy. This is what I need to pass down to my children. I need to teach them about the Lord so that, they can have everlasting life, so that they can be on the right path to, serving the kingdom, which is really what we're here for. And then they can also pass that down to their children. And that's the kind of legacy that I want to live. I want my children to know the Lord. I want their children to know the Lord, after I'm gone, that
Mm-hmm.
is part of them. So that is what legacy means to me.
Yes, that is so good. I had even thought about that earlier before our discussion. I kind of wrote down a note to myself because I wanted to really ponder that as well. And I'm in 100% agreement with you. And, I would add too, just legacy for me is not even necessarily how much I leave in possessions. Kind of like you said, I'm preparing myself to leave things for them so that they can make it. But at the
Hmm.
same time, I want to make sure that they're able to duplicate.
Hmm.
They're
Yeah.
able to duplicate what we've taught them. They're able to pass that along.
Hmm.
And that does take sacrifice. It takes time.
Yeah.
Now we just have our daughter at home. She's about to be 14. She's going through all the teen changes. And I also want to point out, one of your chapters really good for parents who have teens, because you touched on some things about, faith or fear. That's in
Yeah.
chapter 9. Faith and fear. Those are some of the teen years, the
Mhm.
changes they're going through. They're
Mhm.
trying to pull away from you to
Mhm.
gain their identity, but at the same time, you don't want them to lose some of those foundational things you've already kind of poured into them,
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
know. So it could be a struggle. It could be a strain
Mhm.
during those
It's
teen
a
years.
terrifying time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a terrifying time for parents because you see them, that independence is coming out, but you're afraid sometimes of the choices that they're making because of the world that we live in right now. You're afraid for them to be out there exposed to things. It's a very scary time. And I think I had to come to the understanding that God, my children belong to him before they belong to me, and that he doesn't want anything to happen to them. And so he can keep them safer than I can keep them. He can protect them better than I can. And so that helped me overcome the fear. And I talked about that in the book. Um, it was another story about Abraham. When God asked him to sacrifice his son, the son that he had waited for. He finally had his son, and then the Lord asked him to sacrifice him back to him. And Abraham was obedient because he had faith in the Lord's plan for his child. Like, well, whatever you're asking me, Lord, you have a plan because that's who you are. And so he believed him enough to give his son back to the Lord. And so that let me know this is what you want from me too. You want me to trust you with my children. Even in the scary world that we live in, you want me to trust that you have a plan for them and that you're going to take care of them.
Yeah.
So that helped me. It still helps me today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good nugget for any parent that will be watching this, because it's natural. And like I said, that chapter says faith or fear. And
Mhm.
I was just sharing before we got on how we both mutually have sons who started their sophomore year in college.
Mhm.
And so my son this year, we didn't take him back to school. He drove himself
Mhm.
back to school. And honestly, I was like traumatized. I was like, oh my goodness, he needs to text me as soon as he gets there, which he did not. So I'm wondering if he's okay. The road that he takes to get to the school, to me, is not the safest. People
Mhm.
pass on that road all the time because it's
Mhm.
a country road and they're passing. And I'm trying to give him all the tips. If someone try to pass you, don't get this ego like you got to race them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just yeah, just slow down, let them pass you, all those things. Um,
Mhm.
but then I had to do exactly what you said, to honestly begin to exhale, take a deep breath, exhale, and say, you know what? This is God's child. God, I need you to just watch over him, keep him in all his ways from danger seen and unseen. Those are just simple prayers we can talk to God about.
Mhm.
You see my anxiety, but I need you to just watch over him and keep him. Send some minister angels to camp around about him.
Yes, yes, yes. That's what you have to do
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they have to
And I
grow
think
up
that's,
But yeah, I was saying we have to let them go because they have to grow and develop into who God is going to make them, and they can't do that if we won't take our hands off. So we have to let go and trust the Lord.
yeah. Yeah. That's a part of that building. We're talking about building legacy. That's a part of the building process, because we have to let them experience and explore and to grow. And we're still just planting those seeds. That is a breakthrough.
Mm-hmm. It
That is
is.
a breakthrough. Something that broke my heart literally, probably about 2 years ago, is a young lady had lost her mom. A teen had lost her mom and she posted online, and very fittingly, just expressing herself, and said, Mom, I really do miss you. You taught me how to live with you, but you
Mm-hmm.
never taught me how to live without you.
Mm.
And that has stuck with me. I mean, I learned something from, look, we can learn something from young people.
Yes.
I learned something from that teen girl. She was probably about 16.
Mhm.
And I carry that close to me because I was like, okay, I have to make sure that I am giving them those breakthrough moments,
Mhm.
right? When we
Mhm.
let them grow up,
Yeah.
just what we're talking about here, when we let them grow up, when we
Yeah.
let them make a decision, when we then say, God, you have to care for them in this situation because I'm not able to be everywhere in every situation
Mhm.
that they're involved in. That's a
Mhm.
breakthrough. Those are breakthrough moments.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's how we're building legacy because they will begin to continue on when we're not around, or when it's our time. Either way, they're able to continue what we've left for them.
Yes. And you want them to
Hmm.
be able to go to God in prayer when they face tough situations. Like you want that to be in them, that they do that without you around, that they have that ongoing relationship where they talk to the Lord, where they pray to Him about their tough things, that their level of what is hard for them, that they go to Him in prayer about that, and that they trust that He's going to work it out for them, and also that they understand the grace of the Lord too, because the kids are not perfect and they do some stuff, and they need to know that the Lord loves them anyway, and
Yeah.
not that He wants them to be in sin or whatever, but that he loves them and He forgives them, and that they can repent, and they can ask for that forgiveness, and that they can still feel God's love. They need to understand
Hmm.
that you know
Hmm. Yes. That is so. I have a good example of that this weekend. My daughter had her cousin come over and braid her hair. And her cousin was like, nope, you are not going to pay me. You are family. You're not going to pay me. I want to do it because, you're my cousin.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told my daughter, I was like, at least give her something because it took like 5 hours to do it. So you want to
Mm-hmm.
give her something for her time.
Yeah.
So after her cousin left and I had come back home, I said, so did you pay her? And she said, yes. And I said, well, how much did you give her? And she said, $40. Okay, and I didn't think anything about it. But then the cousin texted me later and I was like, thank you so much. Well, I'll text her. Thank you so much for doing my daughter's hair. Um, and I said, what she gave you, was that enough? And I honestly was just asking to see if that was enough, because if it wasn't, I was going to give her a little more. And she said, she didn't pay me. She was like, I wasn't going to let her pay me. Shanika, do you know I was so mad at this little girl? I'm like, why? What was the point of telling a story? Okay, so we had to have a breakthrough moment.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about building legacy. We had to break because we're trying to help even show them principles, like you're saying, and we're trying to help them be responsible adults, and we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to help them. I love what you said about that. God still loves you. He knows you're gonna make mistakes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a part of humanity. So
Yeah.
what I did, even though I was a little upset, I took a breath and I asked her to come down to where I was. She came in the little family room and I said, okay. And God graced me with the method how to deal with her
Mm-hmm.
because she's sensitive too, and I don't want to break her, but I still want to help shape and mold in her into the person God wants her to be. So I just very politely said, even though on the inside I was raging, I said, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to fix or reverse what you shared with me earlier about what you gave our cousin.
Mm-hmm.
I said, did you pay her? No. Why did you? What was the
Right.
point? And she said, I don't know. But I understood that because, like you said, because of our relationship with God, we understand. We have had moments, we don't know why we do certain
Mm-hmm.
stuff. We
Mm-hmm.
have had moments in our lives that we're like, God, I don't even know why I did that. So I
Right.
had to, yeah, I had to deal with her in that manner. And I just said, okay, let's do this. Give me your phone for the rest of the night and you just kind of relax. Because There was no reason for you to do that. And
Yeah.
just next time, just tell the truth. So
Yeah.
that was a breakthrough moment. That was a
Yeah.
breakthrough moment. And the
Mm-hmm.
hope is that that leaves legacy, because in the future, she can think about when moments come, should I lie? Should I tell the truth?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know,
And appreciate that you gave her grace in that moment because, like you said, like it was, you had a choice in how you reacted to her. And I didn't always react the right way. Like I used to be really, I guess, harsh on the kids about certain things. And my son is the
mhm,
one that kind of taught me the lesson about remembering grace because he had done something. And I wrote a little bit about it in the book, but he had done something at school that it was bad. And I was like so upset and just like worried and like, this is, you're messing with your future at
the
school.
future.
And he he was like, Mom, like, God forgives me. Like, he didn't say you need to let it go, but that's that's what he was saying. Like, like he had asked for forgiveness already, and that was done. Like, what else can I do? And it took me a minute, but he was right.
Yeah,
And it wasn't doing anything for me to be like harping on him about it because the incident was done. He had asked God for forgiveness, and now we just had to wait to see what the outcome was going to be. But that was true, and my son had to teach me that. And
mhm,
then from then on, like I had, because he was doing so much shocking stuff to it as a mom, it was just like he always just had me like just thrown off with what he
yeah,
was doing. And I just had to learn like unconditional love for your children, through all of that kind of stuff. Like, you're disappointed in them, but you have to still love them, and they have to know that you
yeah,
love them. Because like you said, kids, even we do stuff that we don't know why we did it. And
mhm,
sometimes you're confused or whatever, but you still need to feel that your parent loves you always, like the Lord loves us always. That should
mhm.
not be negotiable. And that I had to learn, that show him love. Like, even though you're disappointed, that has nothing to do with him being able to feel your love for him.
Yeah. No, that's so good. And that's once again what helps build legacy. They remember that later, it
Yeah.
comes back around. And in the moment, those sacrifices are painful at moments and times through the
Mhm.
process.
Mhm.
But later, it does pay off. So sticking with it
Yeah.
and building that is very important for us as parents.
Mhm.
Let's talk a little bit about some ways that we touched a little bit on just even like principles that we're giving them
Mhm.
along the way. But what are some other ways that we can help build legacy for?
Um, well, first off, and really, I guess, with my upbringing, because I wasn't raised in the church, the first step for me was recognizing who God is and accepting Him into my life. Because, I had to know first who the Lord is, and I had to accept Him for me before I could teach my children about Him. So there's a lot of, children, well, a lot of broken families, I'll say,
Mhm.
where nobody's leading or they're leading in the wrong direction. So the first step is for parents to get on track with the Lord. For them to have a relationship, and understand who God is. That He's not this scary being. That He's not. He's He's not a God who condemns.
Yeah.
That's not the relationship, but just understanding, like, the world is so harsh right now, and everybody's experiencing so much pain, and parents have lost their children. There's a disconnect. Their children are in the streets and doing whatever, and the parents can't get their children back. And so the first step in that is to allow God into your life and allow Him into your home and allow Him to be the head, and
Mhm.
submitting to that, and then bringing your children up under that. So that is the first step, in beginning your legacy. And then
Mhm.
after that, just believing that God is your provision, believing that He's going to get you through this journey, and trusting Him with that, and listening to His guidance, and going on the path that He sets for you. Like, you might have a dream, or you might have like goals that you set for yourself, but you have to abandon that, and you have to get quiet and decide where he's leading your family, and that's the way you go. And I'm telling you, he told me every step of the way what to do. He just did so much, just provision wise, because times were hard at the beginning financially, but he came through for every little thing that we needed. um, just house repairs, groceries, the kids' school, that which I talked about that in the book. Just the way he blessed them with their education. He did all of that. I didn't have the resources for any of that. He did it. And just the way that he would tell me what to say to young men. These are boys. Like I'm a girl. I don't I don't know what to say all the time, but he would tell me what to say. And put that in them, and he showed me ways to strengthen our relationship. He showed me ways
Yes.
to help them understand better, like, what our life is really like. Because you know how kids are, they can be selfish, and they can kind of take things for granted, but he gave me ways to communicate to them, to help them have an understanding. This is your mom, like, have compassion for her, for what she's doing for you. And it increased their respect for me. And it gave us a better bond. It made them more
Mhm.
helpful in the house. It just made them care more, about our situation. So he
Yeah.
did all of that. So that, the next step in legacy is just being obedient to him, listening, letting him have, it's not going to work.
Yeah, when you were talking, it makes me think about even chapter 11. That's why you all, I'm telling him, I'll say it again. You got to get the book. Chapter 11 talks about hearing from God. So, hearing from God, what is He saying to you? And then it leads into chapter 12 where it talks about self care. So, how you help build your legacy, I would add self care and spiritual health. It helps. It definitely helps build the legacy for your children, and it's different for each person on how that flows for them. But you have to start the process and then let God begin to lead you. And that does take that self care, that time of
Hmm.
meditation, that stillness to see where
Hmm.
you are. Because
Hmm.
when we calibrate ourselves and we get the balance we need, our children reap the benefits and the rewards of that. That's
Hmm.
another breakthrough moment.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
another breakthrough moment where
Hmm.
we don't realize how much when we align ourselves, it automatically flows for
Hmm.
our children.
Hmm.
And that is so important. Our
Yes.
prayers are not, our prayers are not unheard. They definitely are. And they begin to reap those things. And then it ends up not being, I want you to share real quick too, like how even your relationship and with God and you growing spiritually and you taking those moments of spiritual health and self-care, how it then begins to help like your children just automatically move into their own personal breakthrough moments. Because for my two oldest sons, I feel like it wasn't something we like forced on them, but we
Hmm.
made sure, like you said, that they were introduced, that they knew
Hmm.
about the Lord and that what God could do for them when they
Hmm.
submitted themselves to Him in their own way.
Hmm.
And they gradually began, as the years went on, to find their own way.
Hmm.
So let's talk about that, just how we encourage our children to kind of find their way in their personal walk with God. And it's not something that,
Hmm.
like your son right now at college, I'm sure well, me and your son, our sophomore sons are finding their way and they're not going around saying, well, my mama said, and my mama did this. That will mess up their coolness. But they are really they're evolving into their own personal walk. Let's talk about that
Hmm.
as moms, because that's an interesting journey.
Yeah. I guess, getting them prepared for, um, to take that walk into adulthood and independence. I think I did a lot of things to try to build up their confidence. Like I talked about in the book about like affirmations and things like that, like different ways that you can pour into your children, kind of just to see the areas that they might be a little weak in, and just do what you can to speak to those areas and just let them know who they are in the Lord. Um, and and that builds up their self-esteem, because you don't want them to be seeking from outside sources to figure out who they are, or listening to other people to tell them who they are. You want them to know who the Lord says that they are. So I tried to do that for them, so that they could have some sense of who they were. Um, and like what you said about just how the Lord kind of like blesses the atmosphere. Uh it it when you turn it over to him, he does give you a sense of peace, because you're not searching, or you're not doing the work yourself. Like, you're not struggling trying to make things happen for yourself all the time. You're just waiting on the Lord. And so that gave our house a sense of peace, and I think it gave them a sense of calm, because they picked that up from me. And so they were at peace. And so I think that helped their spirit a lot. um but just I did those kind of things in hopes that it would get them ready for adulthood.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like, I probably didn't do as much as I could have with other life skills, because we were so busy,
Yeah.
with sports and stuff like that. But just, and that's another thing, allowing them to participate in sports, because I was a single mom, and they didn't have a father figure in the home. My son got a lot from football. That really was
Hmm.
second family for him.
Yeah.
And I think his coaches, being around him, provided a lot of mentorship for him. And I think it played a pivotal part in developing him as a young man. And it really helped him grow in his character. And it filled
Hmm.
in a void that was there. So that was a thing that I felt was necessary for him. So we spent a lot of time on that. It caused us to not be at home as much, so we didn't do as much with, like, we weren't super disciplined with chores and stuff like that, because we just weren't home. But I saw something in football that it fed him. It's like he needed
Yeah.
it. So I made a way for him to have that in his life. So that helped a lot. If you have a good program for your kids to be involved in, because they were at a Christian school, so there was a lot of Christian values being taught, and they were being mentored by other Christian men. So that helped
Yeah.
a lot to prepare him.
Hmm. Yeah, that's so good. I am an advocate, a strong advocate for parents letting other people come in to be that support group for them. And that
Hmm.
does happen in sports and
Hmm.
extracurricular activities. When you
Hmm.
have really good mentors, of course, we know we're going to make sure they're trusted individuals that are not saying something totally opposite than the
Right.
direction we're trying to build. But when
Hmm.
you have those influences and those people in your child's life, that's important. And it doesn't say anything about your parenting. I'm going to
Hmm.
say that again for all the parents that'll be watching. It does not mean that you're a bad parent or that it's putting you on this scale from 1 to 10 down to where you are 2. No, it
Hmm.
actually bumps you up because you're recognizing we don't have everything,
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
that there's
Yeah.
other people that can pour into our children and give them what they need in areas that are needed for their future.
Hmm.
It's so important. So hopefully parents will begin to evaluate that, see where your child is, and be okay with other people helping to support their purpose. I like
Hmm.
something you said. This is how we build legacy. I wrote some notes as you were talking. I'm in your class today. You the professor. Uh, you said something so good. We help build their identity so that when they go out and they are maturing
Hmm.
into young adulthood, that they don't just go off what everybody says about them. They know what God says about them.
Hmm.
So that's a
Hmm.
part of building
Yeah.
legacy, parents. We have to give our kids identity, because if we don't, somebody is.
Hmm.
So we have to speak to them. We have to have those moments to really see who they are. We're not comparing. Don't compare your children, because they're all unique,
Yeah.
and really speak to who they are individually. And that gives them that sense of confidence so that when they leave your nest, then they can fly. They're
Yeah.
not just going to fall out of the nest onto the ground. They're going to begin to flap those wings and begin to grow and to soar on their own when we do that. And then another note that I wrote when you were talking, another way we can build legacy is to build peace in our home.
Mm-hmm.
Our children should want to come home. Not, I don't want to go home because this, it's traumatic, or it's, no peace there. We should build peace for
Mm-hmm.
our home. And that takes evaluation too. And sometimes it's a hard truth, but we have to see where we are. There were seasons, like I said earlier, I was always mad. I was mean. I used to raise my voice, and the Lord dealt with me and was
Mm-hmm.
like, no, this is not the direction. But I had to hear that. And sometimes, we do get those unctions and we ignore them. So I want to
Mm-hmm.
encourage a parent that may be watching this. If God has been dealing with you about maybe your approaches, your reactions, the volume. Sometimes it's not what we say, it's how we say it.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
um, if he's dealing with us about that, just go ahead and just adjust, have a breakthrough moment, because that breakthrough moment is going to help build greater legacy for your children in the
Mm-hmm.
future. And don't beat yourself up. Don't say, oh, I've just been doing this for 10 years. That's okay. We can't do anything about the past. Let's change.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just change tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
The next time it comes up, maybe not lash out or respond the way we typically would, but
Yeah.
let's try to start building a home of peace. And maybe even
Mm.
say that prayer: God, I want to build a home of peace. Help me. Show
Yes.
me how to do it. What does it
Yes.
look like? You know,
Yes.
it may
Yeah.
take some adjustment.
There's a scripture which I read, and I and I was like, wow, Lord, I think this was because I used to be like that too, short tempered,
Mhm.
and you're under stress, so you do, like, you
Yeah.
can speak harshly or whatever. But there's a scripture that says, do not exacerbate your child. And
Mm,
I was like, oh, because you want, even though parents say, well, they don't, they need to listen to me, I'm the head of this house or whatever, but there's still, like, a respect that you also need to have for your children and how you speak to them. You need to speak to them respectfully, because you can break them down, you can break their spirit when you constantly lash into them like that. And I had
mhm.
to understand that, and I had to pick up on my son's how what his feelings about how I was talking to him. I could see it. I could see when I
Yeah.
had crossed the line into kind of like disrespect. I'm speaking to him in a way that I really don't have to, and I could see it's definitely not going to get the response that I want. It's only going to elevate. And so when I started speaking calmly to him and respectfully to him, that's what I got back from him. So there
Mhm.
there is truth to that, and you don't need to go around frustrating your children, because it's not always, it's just not the way to go, and it's not always
Yeah.
necessary. You need to get to a point where you can both communicate.
Yes, that's so true. And we can sometimes see the reflection if we see that our child, let's just say they pop off all the time. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
if we kind of watch it, we'll be like, oh man, I do that. And
Yep.
it's like looking back at you and you're like, oh
Yep.
man. But we'll get on them. Who you talking
Mm-hmm.
to? What are you doing? Da, da, da. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh wow, where they're actually responding in the way that I give off energy to them,
Mm-hmm.
and they're giving it back. So just thinking about that, that's how we build legacy. That's what we're talking about today. We build, and that just takes adjustment sometimes. And I want people to see the benefits of us building and sometimes rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
Make
Mm-hmm.
the adjustments and rebuild,
Yep.
restart somewhere. It's okay. Restart. Like, wait a minute, that is not the route I want to go. And that's not what I'm trying to build.
Mm-hmm.
Start by building something new. This is a great time to build something new. I want to encourage people as we're wrapping up. We're in the 9th month of the year. And you know what happens when it's the 9th month of your pregnancy? You getting excited because it's time to give birth. So even
Mm-hmm.
as we're talking about building and rebuilding, it's a time right now for you to you can birth something new for your family.
Mm-hmm.
Start to think about it. Have those breakthrough moments. that Shanika and I have been talking about within this hour here. Have those breakthrough moments to provide something new and fresh for your family. It's okay to
Mhm.
start where you are and say, what is my vision for my family?
Mhm.
Without a vision, listen, the family can perish. I
Mhm.
just made it
Yeah.
up. That's April 101. Without a vision, look, the family can perish, and that should be
Yes.
our first goal is our family. And we're in an integral time after 2020. We see people even now thinking about what is our next. Even when it comes to our spiritual health, like we talked about, people are wondering, do I go back to a particular church or a ministry? Do I even step into a church again? Whatever that looks like for you, people are thinking about all that right now. But I guess what I want to share with people, your first like church or your first ministry or your first
Mhm.
um even community event, whatever you want to call whatever moves you as a passion, is at home. It is
Mhm.
our home.
Mhm.
Strong families build strong communities build strong states build a strong America. So we can take it on, phase it on. Now that I don't know what other people meant about making America great, but listen, that makes America great again. Strong
Yes.
family, standing on the
Mhm.
foundation, standing on
Mhm.
truth, building up their children, and having those homes of peace. They're standing strong together. They're teaching identity so that the
Mhm.
world does not give identity. They're teaching identity and they're loving at home. Then our communities can then begin to move into those love levels that we need among each other.
Mhm.
Sometimes communication is not as good within our communities and our organizations and in our companies and in government. It's because we have a breakdown of communication at home. So we have to have
Mhm.
the breakthrough moments in our home.
Yes.
That's how we start to build legacy and encourage other people to
Yeah.
do the same. I'm gonna let you close.
Mhm.
You close us out, Professor. You've been teaching us some good nuggets tonight. We'll let you close out. And please, everyone, please do go to Facebook, follow Breakthrough of a Legacy Parenting. There are some great nuggets that come out on the page periodically, and you can share as well. And also look at the book. You know, someone that needs that book, you need that book. Go ahead and get the book, read it, pass it along, or start a small group discussion so that people
Mhm.
can be strengthened. Because parenting is not easy. It's not
Mhm.
easy, but we can gain power among each other by sharing our
Mhm.
experiences and insight through wisdom, education, and resources. Some power. So I'll let you
Yes.
close out.
I just always like to give the message to other, well, especially single women, because that's what I was, just to encourage them, because that is the toughest job and the most unappreciated job out there is being a mom. And it's hard, it's rough, it's difficult. But I want to encourage parents in general, that this journey, when you have small children, you think that it's going to last forever, but it's not. Like, it'll be over before you know it. But God does want to see you through it, and He can take so much off your plate, just by turning it over to Him, just by trusting Him and inviting Him into your life and allowing Him, to have access to your children. That's true. That is real. My testimony, proves that He will walk you through it. So I want, parents to know that, like, He wants to take some of the pressure off of you. He wants you to allow Him to do that for you, and just to know that this journey does not last always. Like, He wants to see you through it. He wants to bless you. He wants to bring you out on the other side. He wants to do a new thing in your life, and in your children's life, and that He has a plan and a purpose to prosper us. That's what He says in His word. So He has something good for you and your children, if you just invite Him in. So I'd like to encourage all the parents with that, just to let them know that, you don't have to struggle. God is there for you.
Yes, that is so good. Thank you. And God does use our children to help us draw closer to Him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you all so much for your time. Thank you for joining us on this Power Parenting session. We meet on the first Tuesday of the month. So please join us next month, and you can always visit olivetreepartner.com to check out our schedule. And next month, we're going to try to have an in-person session at our new facility. So hopefully individuals will join us who are here in the Kentucky, Anna, Southern Indiana area. We would love for you to come and join us in person as well. So check the website out at our schedule, and we will see you next time. Thank you for joining us. If you have any comments, please place those comments. And thank you so much for Shanika for joining us and sharing the wisdom even from your book and your experience.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Everyone have a good night.